Today, we'll talk about how to verify supply and demand zones. We will focus on order blocks. I'll show you my recent trades and how I verify structures. You'll learn about key structures, order blocks, liquidity hunts, balanced price ranges, and perfect entries. This will be an extremely detailed trading video. Hope you do not miss it. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course, all about price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. If you love scalping and day trading or even swing trading and looking for special trading strategies, check out my free trading course. You can find the links on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. Okay, let's remember how to find really good supply and demand zones and how to combine them with super order blocks. If you remember the drop-based rally lessons in free trading course, you should be able to identify these very natural demand areas after really sharp falls and the countering rallies. As you can see, I do not show any effort to identify a specific structure at the moment, just finding myself an overall demand and supply area. Let's get back to my trade. I think I do not even need to tell you where the most natural demand zone is in this chart. Yes, right at this point. The moment I saw this structure, I knew that it was a precious area to identify as a demand zone. Is everything that simple? Not actually. But finding these natural supply and demand zones are the first step. Just imagine buying a second-hand car. Do you buy it blindly? First, you find the car, then you take it to a mechanic to get a quality control check. Yes, we need a quality check. The first thing that I consider is if there is a break, a market structure break possibly. And more importantly, what kind of break is it? A high quality, a powerful displacement, or a very weak break? As you can see in my trade, notice this magnificent break. Super quality. Seeing this kind of movement always excites me. Another checkpoint is in the base. What kind of base do we have? Did we clear most of liquidity before the big movement? Or do we have many untaken lows? Remember, price always seeks liquidity. If we have so many open hands, we are putting ourselves into much more risk. Let's check our base closely and see what is happening. You can notice that 2 times liquidity hunt happens here. Price fills up and ignites itself before the powerful break upwards. Seeing these liquidity hunts at the base gives me comfort. Why? I know that this is a more reliable demand zone. You can notice this super order block right here with the imbalance. Okay, we can find much more precise order blocks in under 30 minutes. But next, I'll teach you a couple of secrets about demand zones. Okay, we will look into 4 different demand zones and how to make decisions based on price movement. Case 1. Now, price makes the market structure break above the demand area without pulling into our demand order block. Can I long this? The answer is yes, possible. However, this will not be the best setup in the world. It comes with risks. Case 2. Price pull back to our demand and nicely react. Yes, this is the ideal case for me. The ones that I love so much. It gives me confidence before placing trades. Case 3. How about this? Price pierces the demand, hunts liquidity from the base, and quickly reacts. There is nothing wrong with this setup. This means that the fuel provided with the order block was not enough. It came further down to hunt more fuel. I use this setup quite a lot and I also love this. Case 4. Now finally something I would not long. Price strongly breaks our demand, a high quality break. For me, this is a failed demand, a failed order block. it can turn into a breaker block. If I see this, I do not mostly trade it. So much risk. Okay, all great. Everything is clear or not? If you have a question, put it in the comment section. I answer all your questions. Now, where were we? You can see this clear setup. Before going down into my trade, I want to go up with higher time frames. I want to investigate what happened. Is this a fake reaction? What caused this reaction in the first place? Now we are in the 1 hour chart, as you can see. Like an investigator, we are investigating the causes. This special area is the cause of reaction. And notice this flip point. Basically, a support and resistance flip. Now we are inside the area. What do you see here? Tell me. A super BPR, super balanced price range. In the middle, the support and resistance flip. An extraordinary combination is happening here. As you can see how the price reacts to this magical combination. Also, price finds its self-inducement right above this structure. It's like throwing oil and gas into a fire. We keep fueling up. Notice this crazy precision at this point. Price taps the support and resistance flip, which is right in the middle super balanced price range. Not random stuff. Now let's talk about this part, the trade and entry. Let's zoom in and check out the 1 minute time frame. What happens here is a very simple concept, the power of 3. Remember where PO3 happens? Right around the key structures like order blocks, supply zones, or imbalances. I showed probably over 100 examples of this. So basically price accumulates orders, makes its manipulation by hunting liquidity, and then changes the structure. Finally, the expansion phase. Let's look at the chart. The order accumulation, then the manipulation. Notice that it clears these equal lows. Finally, the structure changed and expanded. My entry was a little late. It could have been a much better entry here. I was not paying high attention here. Let's talk about targets and trade management. Obviously, this mega 15-minute imbalance was the first target, which has this flip inside this mega imbalance gave me a precise location to target. Now, as a day trader, what are my priorities? Firstly, I tried to find the closest target possible. Then I want to end the trade as soon as possible with that close target, adjusting my stop losses to get at least 2-hour trades. Why do I do all this then? Because trading and markets are so cruel. They are ready to take your money away. All games are rigged. We need to get in and out as quickly as possible in these markets. We are playing with fire here. If you do not know what you are doing, you can get burns. Okay folks, another adventure ends here. As always, all these trading methods are suitable for scalping, day trading, or even swing trading. I believe that it will be really helpful in your trading life. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.